I'd like to ask now that the local Member of Parliament, Gerard Kennedy, speak to us and give us some of his thoughts on this very difficult situation.
Thanks, Lee. It's good to see you here tonight. You're representing this community. This community believes in people being allowed to express themselves. You're representing Canada. Canada is not the United States. We say that with no rancor, with no sense of superiority, but we make our own decisions. We stand for our own values, and the test that's here is not a test of immigration or a test of Kimberly Rivera or of families or even of governments, but it's a test of us as a people. You know, how does that live and find expression? And it's good to see you as an appropriate circle of community here tonight. But I want to tell you something else. You represent the real expressed will of Canadians. This is not some small effort. This is not some marginal exercise. This is actually how Canadians feel. Canadians didn't believe in the Iraq War. Canadians don't believe that we should be pushing people of conscience out of this country to go back and be punished. And that's how Canadians feel. And it was actually expressed in a place that ought to mean something, in the Parliament of Canada. In June of last year, a majority of the people, duly elected, sent to Parliament to express and make judgment and make their best decision on behalf of Canadians and their values, said this. They said, quite appropriately, that Canada should give harbor to anyone who is fighting in a war not sanctioned by the United Nations and is a conscientious objector. And in fact, there should be a class of immigration to welcome such people. And that none of them should be moved out of the country in the meantime until they've had that full consideration. That's what the Parliament of Canada said in June, and it was passed by a majority vote. And it's only, in fact, the current government of this country that will not exercise its required outlook, which is to do what the Canadian people and the majority of Parliament want to have done. And I've written to the Minister, and I'm now in dialogue with people from all parties, and Kim has been supported today by people of a variety of political parties. But certainly the Bloc and the NDP and the Liberal parties have supported this idea. And what we have to do now is take a further step. We have to put it into law. We have to use Parliament to actually say that this is something that no minister, no prime minister, can arbitrarily do according to their peculiar sensibilities. They're the ones that are marginal in this. It's not about patting Canadians on the back, but this is how Canadians feel. And the really tough thing in a lot of political stuff lately is how to have it find good expression. I can't think of a better expression for the kind of things that we want to stand for than the words that Kim used earlier. You know, she is fighting for all of us. This is not about a handful of Americans who are going to be badly treated. This is about the character of Canada. What do we stand for these days? What are we prepared to do to find that strong expression these days? And I agree with what I think Dale kind of touched on. There was, it's interesting, it's the current President of the United States that's kind of reminding Canadians what we might be capable of. And I don't know where Mr. Obama is going to go on this issue or on others, but the very idea, I think, that there is now a recognition in the United States by a president who thought the Iraq War was wrong in the first place, that they are going to exercise their power in future by peaceful means, wherever possible, I think leaves Mr. Harper and Mr. Kenney and those folks on an island. And what I'm going to work as hard as I can is try and find a way that they don't get to operate from that island in a way that pulls apart the lives of, well, we've got a new little Canadian here, and the Americans that I think are very bravely here. I'm not trying to glamorize or put a heroic spin on things, but I think it is something to appreciate, that every single war resistor that's here is here at some very great personal cost. And this is not taken lightly in the United States of America, the kind of action that they've taken. It's taken a heck of a lot of personal courage. And it's taken a lot of, and there's a lot of deprivation involved in terms of the conditions that they put themselves into. So I know that I'm not talking to a room full of doubting people, but I guess I want to share with you the challenge of the next few days, maybe the next few weeks, and so on, which is to, frankly, find a way to grow this circle of people. Canadians want to be part of this circle. They want to let Kimberly stay. They want Dale and Dean and others to stay in Canada. This is where they belong. This is where the welcome has always been for people of different views, for people who want to share a certain outlook, a certain set of values. It's the one thing that binds us together. We're not the, same race and religion and so on, but we have that in common. And I think this is something we really have to take seriously as a way to exercise those common values. I don't have magic for you tonight. I will tell you this, I think there's a majority in Parliament that will pass a law to give expression to the resolution they passed in June. It will take some doing to get that done, even if, as some people would propose, the coalition take out the government, if the budget is in a certain kind of shape, that by itself, we're still very focused on the economy. To get this issue brought front and forward, it can be passed even in a minority parliament where the Conservatives are still the government because of some of the rules of how committees work. Committees can actually send legislation into the House and it has to be voted on. But we need a stronger expression from our community. I mean, I'm very proud of what everyone has done, and people, and I know they don't want to be named, but there are people here who have really worked incredibly hard to create a community of concern already. And I just, I think it is important though. This is a majority, mainstream outlook that Canadians have. And I think that the task of the next number of days and weeks is simply to get those folks to express it. And so I'll be working with other people in Parliament when we come back next week to try and get signatures for parliamentarians that indicate their will to pass legislation. I have written and I will be speaking out as I have today, and we'll try and make sure this doesn't get lost in the economy or any of the games playing that goes on in Ottawa. But I will be very plain, I need your help. This is a political issue. This is not Kimberly Lavera's fight, this is our fight. And we need to make it our fight in the sense of I need from you what's being asked, the phone calls and the efforts, and we also need to think of every which way we can to reach across what I think is a very small divide of people who haven't yet plugged into this issue or thought about it or given it the kind of consideration that they need to. And I'll tell you, no matter what else happens, no matter what you think of Mr. Harper and his gang, as somebody called them, if they see Canadians from a variety of walks of life in favor of being fair on this issue, they will be afraid. I won't say they'll agree. I won't say they'll change their mind. They'll just be politically afraid. And then they will do what we force them to do. So that's my goal. I hope I can accomplish that. But I look forward to working with you and to the group of people who've been ahead of the game in terms of expressing what I think are fundamentally Canadian values of welcome, not just of tolerance, but of real respect and appreciation for people who act on what they believe in. And I think that's what we're called upon to do ourselves. Thanks.
Well, thanks very much, Gerard. That was it inspired me to urge everyone here to do what they can